Hi, welcome to another YouTube video about Qlik and making it easy. This one's about something that Qlik's been doing for the last couple of years called the 24 days of visualizations. And this one in particular is about the Pareto chart. Thanks to Patrick Nordstrom from Qlik for sharing all these things on LinkedIn. Okay, so Pareto is something that's been around for a long time, and most people would probably know about it. I've always thought of it as the 80-20 rule. 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. So this is what the sheet looks like that came from Qlik, and I just wanted to run through it a little bit. You'll see over here that there's a combo chart that's showing in the red there at the top the cumulative amounts of sales, and down the bottom those amounts have been divided into three categories: the green for up to 80%, the yellow up to 90%, and the red for the remaining 10%. The pivot table does something similar. There's a Pareto class A, B, and C with the same kinds of percentages. And there's a button here to set a variable, and that variable changes the dimension all the way through the application. So you can see now that it's changed to category name, and the A's, B's, and C's have been changed. Now this only has one drillable piece, which is that that value there for periods. But remember, inside Qlik, and this is something that's important for you to share with your users, is that they can drill in and discover other values to search for. So I've just gone into market and selected international. And when I do that, the results on this page are all international. So important to make sure that that's understood by users when you build Qlik apps for them. Or if you're a user, it's important to know you can do that. Dimensionality and the change to it's very important in this application. So let's have a look at the button that sets the variables, the variable that's used to change the dimensionality. So I've gone into Edit Sheet. There's the button, and you can see that there's some actions. I need to make it advanced options to see these. And so the first is actions and navigations and set a variable value. And we're setting the variable value as v dimension. And to do this, we're using a pick and a match function. And so what that essentially does is it cycles through each of the options that we've got in there. So we've got country, category name, product name, and customer as the four values that the variable can be. And they align with four of the dimensions inside the data model. So I'll just cancel there instead of changing anything. And once we've got that set, a couple of other little bits and pieces to do. And the first of those is that we can change the color. So we'll go into the appearance of the chart and we can put a label. Actually, the first thing I'll do is I'll just put a label in here so that it's easy to see which dimension has been selected. And I've made that bold. And because it's white there, the value comes up white and it's sitting in the center of the button. All right, and we're putting a border around it, and that's white as well. So that's all done, nice. And there's an icon next to it called reload, and the reload icon is makes it clear that you can click on it. Down in the bottom left-hand side, when you're editing, there's options to see the variables, and you'll see in there that this is set initially to be product name. It doesn't change, so don't panic if you look in here after you've changed the variable. Okay, let's go into the covers here a little bit of the combo chart. There's something I don't really agree with in the numbers. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll get to see a little bit more about what I'm talking about. But the first bar chart shouldn't be 0. It should be the value of the first bar chart, which is 29. So not quite how I would have expected. So here we are in the chart. Once again, we're editing and we're using advanced options to do that editing. So it's easy to see what needs to be set. And the first thing we can look at is the dimension. Now we've set a V dimension
previously, and that's the one we're using. You'll see that there's also a couple of items that we're going to do. So the colorization, for example. So let's start to look ahead to those things. And the first one, as I said, is v-dimension. So we've set that there. And now we go into the sales area. And the sales calculation is nice and simple. It's just sum of sales. We do need to color that. So we'll go into more properties here, and we can color by expression. And if we look inside the expression, here we can see that we're using another agger to do that one. And essentially we're saying if it's less than 80, make it green. If it's then less than 90, make it orange. And if it's not either of those, it becomes red. The setting that I would change, you'll see that there's a 1 listed in those lines 2 and 3. That 1 becomes 0, and we get the correct value for the very first bar in the chart. And right at the bottom here, we've got the sorting order, and that obviously changes when v-dimension changes, so that's important, and Agger has that capability to sort based on a dimension. Okay, let's cancel out of there without doing anything too dramatic, and we'll move across to look at other pieces of the chart. So we're going to click on presentation to move that back again, and now we can go in and look at some of the other parts of the chart. So the line up the top there, that red one, is described as ACK percentage. I probably would have said accum percentage, but all good. And again, it's an agger. Now in this one, we've got that one issue. I would make that a 0 again. And to be honest, min does nothing in this case because it's aggregated to a single level. So there's no point having a min. So that can be removed as well. And so essentially we're dividing whatever the calculation is by the total of all values, and that gives us a percentage. So it's a relatively simple calculation. I've cancelled out of that once again. Now we've got to look at a little bit of the colorization for that. So we'll go down, have a look at more properties, and we can see that it's just defined as red down the bottom there. So it's nice and simple. And we'll jump out of more properties, and as we go down a little bit further, we don't need to look at sorting or add-ons, but in appearance, we need a title. And so the title we're using is combo chart and then the v-dimension. So we've got the ability to see which thing it is that we've selected inside the chart based on the button that we looked at previously. Okay, so that gives us our heading at the top. And there's really not much else to do inside this chart. I really like tooltips, so I would probably be adding some tooltips in to say what the top product is inside Germany as part of this, the reporting, but there isn't anything like that, so that will do it. Okay, let's have a look at the pivot table. It's fairly similar to what we've already seen in the combo chart, but we'll have a little bit of a dig into that one as well. And so once we open the sheet, we'll edit as we have been before, make sure it's on advanced objects options. And you'll see that the first of the 2 dimensions is a Pareto class. And in that case, we're going to make them A's, B's, and C's. Let's have a look at the formula for the Pareto class so that we can understand how it's calculating. So again, it's an agger, and that agger, essentially I would change the 1s to 0s to make it look more correct to my eye. Anything less than 80 becomes an A, anything less than 90 then becomes a B, and whatever's left becomes C. And then at the bottom of the formula there on line 5, you'll see that we're calculating the sort order, and we're doing that in a descending order. Okay, so the second dimension, we'll go and have a look at that now. And the second dimension is our v-dimension. And so it needs to change each time. And so we'll just roll down so we can see that one. And there it is there. So once we look at V dimension, we're using it as the label, so it's clear what it is that we're looking at each time. And essentially inside there, that's all we need to do. We just need to tell it that it's the V dimension. And when we go a little bit further down, our sum of sales again is nice and simple. There's a couple of extra columns in here that are a bit irrelevant to us learning about how things work. But we'll have a look at the formula, which is sum sales as it has been before. And then we'll look at the presentation of the first dimension, the Pareto class. But just before we do that, Qlik's added a little bit more for styling options in general and in chart. And inside that area, you can change fonts and colors and so on. Just a little bit. You can change sizes under the chart option, and you can do a row hover if you need to for the chart. We're not changing any of those. They're all default inside this application. Inside pivot tables, we've got the option to make things fully expanded, which we can see there. And we're not, we're indenting a little bit, so you can see that Germany doesn't flow directly under the A. And so that's all good and sensible. Let's have a look at the colors now and how we set the color for the A, B, and C. There's two things that we really need to look at, the background color and also the font. So let's go find those. Okay, here they are, the background color. We're using an agate once again, and that'll be aligned to the one we did in the combo chart previously. Again, change 1 to 0, and now 80, 90, and 100 or anything else will be red. And again, we sort into the correct order. So nice and easy and what we expected before. So in terms of the font colors, it's kind of nice to have a white against a green. So that's what we're doing in this one. Same formula. We're just saying, okay, if it's 80, it's going to be green in the background, so it's going to be white in the text. And the next one's orange, we're going to make that black, and then red, we're going to make white as well. So nice, simple formula. It just looks nicer and it's easier to read when people see it. Thank you very much for watching the video. We're all done. Please subscribe. If you need any help with your Qlik practice, I'm more than happy to help. I've started a Patreon account. Patreon's a way for people to give a little bit of support for the videos. It costs monthly. There's some benefits to this first video. You can see those indicated above, and there's a link to the Patreon account in the description of the video. If you like what you're getting and you'd like some more, happy if you join Patreon, but if you don't want to, that's all good too. Thank you.